negative self-talk that you just articulated is itself a psychological wound. It's a sign of psychological wound. It's a sign of self-rejection, which is one of the deepest impacts of trauma, is that people traumatized, they develop a shame-based view of themselves. So they begin to think that there's something wrong with them. That itself is a wound. Now, when you talked about seemingly insignificant things, we have to make a distinction here. There are what we call the big T traumatic events. Those have been well studied: physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse of children, neglect, a parent being addicted, a parent dying, a parent being jailed, violence in the family, a rancorous divorce, a parent being mentally ill, to which we need to add social factors such as poverty or racism. These are big T traumatic events that can wound kids, and we can talk about the ways in which that happens. But you can also wound kids not by doing bad things to them that you shouldn't, but by not doing the good things that they need. In other words, children have certain needs. A human child is born with certain evolution-determined needs. Those children whose needs are not met that way, for example, for unconditional loving acceptance, and I'm not talking about the parent's love, I'm talking about the capacity of the parent to unconditionally accept the child and to see the child.
What do you mean when you say unconditional acceptance? Because I think most of us, it's revelatory to hear, no, there's a biological hardwired need that you have as a child to feel unconditional acceptance and safety from the adults around you and in your environment. And if you do not feel that way, it creates a response inside your body. There is a reaction to that. But most of us, I think we even just skip over that fact, Gabor, that there's a fundamental need that a child has to feel accepted. And so what does that mean, if you could unpack it for us?
Sure. Children get to experience and see themselves the way they are seen by the adults. So if a child gets emotional and they get criticized, then there's something wrong with their emotions. If a child is very sensitive and they're told, don't be so sensitive, they think there's something wrong with them. If a young toddler is behaving a certain way, and the parent thinks that the way to correct this is to punish the child, then the child is just being a 2-year-old. Something wrong with them, and they have to compensate for that by meeting the parent's expectations. So now the acceptance is no longer unconditional. I'll accept you if you look this way, talk this way, behave this way. And then all your life, you'll be worried about how the people see you. That's a sign of a childhood wound. Because fundamentally, we need to be connected to ourselves. And when parents don't see us, we don't see ourselves. That's just a fact. And if you look at human evolution, we didn't evolve under the conditions that kids are raised now. We evolved under conditions for millions of years until 15,000 years ago, living in small communities where there were many adults. It takes a village to raise a child. The kids were always with the parents. There was no separation. Kids were carried everywhere. They were not put down to let them cry it out. They were just unconditionally accepted and not punished, actually, not hit. It's a totally different paradigm of parenting. That's how we evolved, which means that the human child expects to be treated that way, unconsciously. When those needs are not met, kids are hurt. Children have another need, which is we're wired to have certain emotions, along with other mammals. We're wired to have anger. Anger is essential for survival. Fear, we're wired to have fear. We're wired to have curiosity, seeking. We're wired to have separation, distress, so that if the adult's not around, we should be upset, we should panic, so we cry so the parents come and get us. We're wired for play. And children have this need that when those emotions arise, parents should understand those emotions and not necessarily do what the kid wants them to do, but to understand the child's feelings. And when children are denied that kind of understanding, they think there's something wrong with their emotions. Then they start telling themselves, I'm too emotional. I'm not good enough. I'm too sensitive. I am not lovable. Or when children don't get the attention that they need, guess what they develop? They need to be attractive so they can attract attention. Now look at the damage done in this culture by people thinking that they need to meet certain standards of physical looks. And the trouble that people go to, it's all because they were not accepted just for who they were. And now they're trying to attract attention